Members of a scientific expedition are conducting excavations in the Arctic desert. In one of the caves, they discover something unusual in the ice. The ice block is carefully cut out and attached to the helicopter. Afterwards, the ice block is transported over the snow-capped mountains to the scientific laboratory. Later, scientists send a fax to their superiors, in which they report an important find of archaeological and anthropological significance. They ask to stop drilling the territory and send a specialist to the laboratory to help investigate the creature imprisoned in a block of ice. Dr. Stanley Shephard is sent to the laboratory. He is an anthropologist and is currently conducting his research in the Arctic, studying the history, culture and traditions of the local Eskimos. Due to the fact that the doctor is often late at meetings with the natives, his colleagues constantly make fun of him and do not take his work seriously. In the lab, Shephard is met by Dr. Diane Brady along with a group of other scientists and informs him of the prehistoric find. First, scientists decide that they have found a bear or some other ancient animal. They say that not so long ago, Russian researchers found a mammoth in the ice and its cells turned out to be quite viable. Scientists hope that the creature they found is also preserved in good condition. They plan to take some of its remaining living cells for further study. The researchers fire a laser and carefully, layer by layer, cut through the ice. Soon it becomes clear to them that it's not an animal that is imprisoned in the block, but the body of a caveman. Examining the appearance of the Neanderthal, Shephard concludes that in the past the man could have been a hunter and lived on Earth about 20,000 to 40,000 years ago. The anthropologist wants to take a closer look at the find, but Dr. Diana Brady, along with the rest of the scientists, intend to cut the Neanderthal into pieces and send it to the best research centers in the world for study. Shephard asks scientists to once again investigate the area of land where they found the Neanderthal, because an entire tribe of cavemen can be frozen in the ice. However, the search area can stretch over thousands of square miles, so he is denied further research. A prehistoric man is thawed and stripped of his clothing so that tissue samples can be taken for analysis. They give him a blood transfusion and attach electrodes to monitor brain activity. During testing, scientists notice that all living Neanderthal cells are preserved in perfect condition. Dr. Brady believes that in the body of an ancient person there could be some kind of cryoprotectants that help save his body from damage during freezing. Researchers continue to study the Neanderthal and in the process are surprised to notice faint wave activity in his brain. They decide to try to revive the man and give him ampules of calcium and adrenaline, after which they use a defibrillator. The heart of a Neanderthal begins to beat and all scientists freeze in place from the realization that their incredible discovery will soon excite the whole world. Iceman wakes up on an operating table, surrounded by figures wearing surgical masks. Not understanding what is happening, he begins to panic and in every possible way dodges an injection with sleeping pills. Only Shephard has the courage and humanity to take off his mask and show the Neanderthal his usual bearded face, allowing the poor fellow to plunge into a peaceful restorative sleep. After the scientists gather in a separate room and discuss the future fate of the Neanderthal, they understand that for an amazing discovery, at least the Nobel Prize is likely for them. In the Arctic, the team is studying a cryoprotectant to freeze all cancer patients in the future and unfreeze them when humanity finds a cure for this disease. Now, thanks to the Iceman, they will be able to figure out how to keep living body cells at extremely low temperatures and freeze people to gain immortality. Shephard does not support the enthusiasm of his colleagues and believes that a person should not live forever, because the planet is already overpopulated. Scientists decide not to say anything to journalists for now, so that their find will not be turned into the star of a TV show or commercial. The anthropologist suggests first studying the Neanderthal in a natural environment and with his help to learn more about the prehistoric world. Shephard manages to beg the team for 2 weeks for his own research. A special vivarium is being set up for the Iceman, which is filled with a variety of animals and plants so that the Neanderthal can hunt and get his own food. The caveman wakes up in a familiar environment and goes about his usual business. First, he finds berries and squeezes juice out of them to quench his thirst. Later, the Neanderthal chases the bird away from its nest and steals the eggs from it. By evening, he kindles a fire with 2 stones and cooks food on it. The next day, after a morning shower under a waterfall, the Iceman goes hunting for a wild boar. He tricks it to go into a cave and impales it on a makeshift spear. While fishing, a Neanderthal takes a hose for prey and pulls it out of the water. Contrary to his expectations, the item turns out to be inedible. Then the man notices that the hose stretches all the way to the rock and comes along it to a secret metal door. The caveman quickly breaks down the door and finds several laboratory assistants and animals in cages behind it. Frightened scientists manage to close the passage with a grate so that the Neanderthal does not get inside the laboratory. From what he sees, the caveman becomes furious. He starts screaming and tries to punch the wall out with his fists. One of the lab assistants has to shoot him with a tranquilizer dart. After that, scientists take the savage to the operating room to take additional tissue samples. Shephard tries to defend the Iceman's right to be treated as a human and not a scientific specimen. He reminds the scientists that they promised him to study the Neanderthal unhindered for 2 weeks. In response, Dr. Brady says that they should take advantage of the fact that the savage was put to sleep. In the evening, Shephard shows Dr. Brady a videotape of his observations of various tribes around the world. The video shows them displaying inexplicable physical abilities. Their skin seems to be invulnerable to fire and any other bodily harm. The anthropologist believes that caveman culture may provide clues to the study of the adaptability of the human body, citing ceremonies such as walking on fire. Shephard eventually persuades the colleague to let him into the caveman so that he can try to establish contact with him. The anthropologist enters a Neanderthal man's hideout without a weapon or protective suit. The caveman tries to drive the intruder away, but Shephard, despite his fear, gradually closes the distance between them. Curiosity takes over and the Neanderthal lets Shephard close to him and carefully examines him. He later pushes the scientist to the ground to do his own research. After making sure that the stranger is not dangerous and physically very similar to himself, Neanderthal decides to make contact. He pokes his chest and introduces himself as Charyu, after which Shephard calls him Charlie. The anthropologist also gives him his name. The caveman makes very similar sounds in response, making it clear that he remembered the name of a new acquaintance. The anthropologist notices that the scars on the Neanderthal's chest fold into the pattern of a large bird. The caveman makes various sounds and tries to explain something to Shephard, but the doctor finds it difficult to understand him. In order not to lose the progress made in communicating with the Neanderthal, scientists decide to use a professional linguist, Mabel. Researchers begin recording Shephard's conversations with Charlie on tape, after which a linguist analyzes the recordings and tries to decipher them. She tries to find logic in the savage's speech and find out how he constructs sentences. In the process of communication, men tell each other the names of things around them, such as a stone, a frog, or buttons on the anthropologist's shirt. One evening, Shephard begins to hum a song, tapping a piece of wood on a stone. The Neanderthal really likes the song and asks his new friend to keep singing. Soon the caveman gets into the rhythm so much that he begins to sing along with the scientist. In between communication, scientists conduct their own experiments with the Neanderthal. They try to identify the cryoprotectant in his blood by holding Charlie in extreme cold. Thanks to this substance, they will be able to freeze people for centuries. However, the experiments do not bring the desired results, and during one of the tests they almost kill the Neanderthal. Back at the vivarium, Charlie yells at Shephard, realizing that he is being experimented on. He wants to be free from torment and asks the anthropologist to kill him, but the scientist refuses to do it. Shephard asks Dr. Brady to help him communicate with the Neanderthal. He believes that contact with a female will help to discover completely new qualities in Charlie, and this will help to study him better. After much persuasion, Diana finally agrees to enter the caveman's hideout with Shephard. Charlie examines and sniffs Dr. Brady with interest. The Neanderthal then treats the frightened woman to a beetle and tries to mate with her. Shephard comes to Brady's aid and forbids Charlie from touching the woman, explaining to the Neanderthal that she is his girlfriend. The Iceman runs into the cave and brings Shephard the shiny hose thing. He offers to trade the item for Dr. Brady, but is again rebuffed. On the next visit, Charlie is in a great mood and scientists manage to learn something new about him. He draws a woman and two little men, and begins to speak enthusiastically about them in his own language. The scientists realize that Charlie is talking about his family and wants to know where they have gone. During a conversation, a helicopter hovers over the transparent roof of the vivarium, which greatly excites the savage. He begins to climb up the artificial rocks to catch up with the miracle bird. However, scientists have already given the order for the helicopter to fly away and not disturb the Neanderthal. Shephard again met with the Eskimos to learn from them the ancient legend of the bird, the messenger of the gods. They call the deity a name very similar to what Charlie called out to a flying helicopter. According to legend, a large bird should carry a person to heaven and bestow peace and eternal happiness. But if he sinned, the bird will punish him for his sins and take him to a completely different place. For example, the destruction of one's own tribe can be considered a sin. Shephard has a hunch that once upon a time there was an ecological catastrophe on Earth and all animals disappeared from the territory where ancient people used to live. Then Charlie decided to appeal to the divine bird and offer it to sacrifice himself in exchange for it returning the prey to the earth and saving his tribe from starvation. To communicate with the deity, the Neanderthal plunged into a deep trance and woke up already on the operating table in the laboratory. When Charlie saw a helicopter in the sky, he decided that this was his divine bird. Now he can't think of anything else but saving his tribe. After this event, the Neanderthal stops communicating even with Shephard and for several days tries to put himself in a trance again. He lays out before him gifts for an offering to the deity and draws ancient symbols on the skin. Scientists want to help the savage, but do not know what can bring him out of this state. When Shephard visits Charlie, he secretly watches him and tries to figure out how he opens the door. Then the savage finds the button from the door and gets inside the laboratory. He cautiously walks the corridors, trying to find a way out of the building. Seeing his reflection in the mirror, the Neanderthal is very frightened and breaks the glass. Then he gets into a room with animals locked in a cage and runs out of it in horror. The savage is frightened by literally everything that he meets on the way: a photocopier, an elevator, and strange potions in glass flasks. Therefore, when one of the scientists gets in his way, He immediately rushes at him and pierces him with a spear. The scientist manages to sound the alarm, and Charlie manages to get out of the laboratory. Overjoyed, he falls to the ground and touches the snow. Suddenly, he sees an approaching helicopter and tries to get close to it. But during a turn, the machine accidentally hits the Neanderthal and he loses consciousness. Charlie is returned to the lab and the scientists are relieved to find that he is unharmed. After what happened, he should become a guinea pig for scientists, without the right to freedom. Shephard wants a different fate for Charlie and insists that he end his search for the divine bird and have hope of saving his tribe. But the researchers refuse to help the savage and remove the anthropologist from research. Then Shephard negotiates with a group of caring scientists to help the Neanderthal escape from the laboratory unnoticed. Shephard walks with Charlie through the snowy desert. An alarm is sounded in the laboratory and people on snowmobiles and a helicopter are sent to search for the fugitives. Seeing that very big bird in the sky, the Neanderthal fascinated goes towards it. Shephard tries to stop Charlie, but the snow falls between them, creating an abyss. When the helicopter drops too low, the savage grabs onto it and takes off. One of the pilots tries to drag Charlie into the cockpit, but the savage has other plans. He is happy because he has finally found his deity and is ready to sacrifice himself. Charlie unclenches his hands and falls down with a smile on his face. Shephard watches his flight and rejoices for his friend who finally managed to fulfill his dream and gain long-awaited freedom.